light bulb. It was a huge breakthrough. Humans depend on sight. I'm using visuals for you to better understand the speech. This is a polar bear. It is the main predator of the Arctic, keeping the food chain intact, since all animals are connected. Wouldn't it be nice if to be a contributing member of society, all you'd have to do is eat? Advancing society involves more technology, but another factor is sustainability, which is using natural resources responsibly so all organisms can thrive, present and future. Humans depend on electricity and Arctic animals, but electricity is making life harder for these animals. How? Natural resources aren't being used responsibly to produce electricity, and it is causing a huge issue. Climate change. Today, let's examine what causes climate change, how electricity is produced and developed in developing countries, its impacts, and finally, how it can continue to reduce the influence of climate change. First, you should know what climate change is. Climate change is a change in Earth's usual temperature. It is a global warming. Fossil fuels, natural resources created from the fossils of dead organisms, are being burned as power for technology, like those utilizing electricity. It's like when coal is burned for a power source. As a result, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere, a greenhouse gas, which traps heat, increasing the temperature of the Earth. This model shows that more heat is being transmitted to Earth than is being reflected, and that is due to greenhouse gases trapping the heat. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, 27% of the total greenhouse gas emissions in the U.S. are caused by electricity, which makes sense. Electricity is used to turn on lights. We're not in the dark ages anymore. It's also used to heat up water so you can take hour-long showers and have your concerts there. Most of the greenhouse gases created from electricity usage are due to coal being burned as a power source. In developing countries, most notably India and China, there is a dependence on coal for cheap electricity to generate economic growth. It has a purpose beyond being a stocking stuffer for the children on Santa's naughty list. In the year 2000, 2/3 of developing Asia had electricity. Over 2/3 of the progress has been made in India, with over 99% of the population have electricity access in 2019, thanks to the Sabakya scheme, which made electricity inexpensive to Indian households that were lacking it. Most of India's electricity comes from coal, the cheapest source. They're the world's #2 producer in coal, yet it has improved the lives of many Indians, whereas the United States is at an economic advantage where they can use other sources for electricity, yet there is continued use of fossil fuels. Across Africa, there is a huge shortage of electricity. Many hospitals and clinics don't have access to reliable electricity, and this has major implications. For example, medicine spoiling, lack of lighting to see clearly for operations, and the inability to use crucial medical devices. Healthcare is just one example of an industry that would be improved with electricity. In 2015, 92.7% of South Africa's electricity came from coal sources, according to the World Bank. Over 95% of South Africa has electricity, making it one of the most developed countries in Africa. Most of Africa, though, is lacking electricity, with only 43%, compared to the world's 87% of the continent having electricity. The demand for power in Africa will continue to rise due to a high population growth rate. This is displayed with Niger, which has a total fertility rate of 7 children per woman. Comparatively, the United States' total fertility rate is 2 children per woman. If Africa doesn't receive more help from economically advanced countries, it will continue to rely on fossil fuels for power. Thanks, dinosaurs. Shedding some light on the subject, fossil fuels contribute to our carbon footprint, which is the amount of greenhouse gases emitted into the atmosphere due to human activities. Every second, 2.57 million pounds of carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. Globally, carbon levels have surpassed 400 parts per million, or a safe level is 350 parts per million. Methane levels as well are skyrocketing, which comes from manure. The stinky stockyards in the Midwest are contributing to greenhouse gas emissions as well. This all exhibits that there are too many greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, but what does this really mean for the planet? First of all, It constitutes it heating up, which it has by 1.8 degrees from the 1600s until now. This may seem like a minuscule amount, but a slight change makes a difference. It's like how the freezing point of water is 32 degrees. If it is only a degree higher than that, there's no possibility of snow. It's like the difference is the Earth is massive, and having the entire planet heat up can cause some major repercussions. If ice gets too hot, it will melt. This is happening in the Arctic and Antarctic. Polar bears have a thick layer of fat and depend on a cold environment to survive. Seals are the same way. If seals were to go extinct due to a lack of ice, it would cause a chain reaction. First, polar bears would have to try to find other things to eat, like Arctic foxes. They would exhaust their food supply because they're used to eating mainly seals, and then they would starve. With all the predators going extinct, the prey population would have the chance to increase. And then they would eat up all the vegetation. They would be forced to either have to move habitats or starve. Many marine animals depend on the ice as well, like walruses. If walruses were to go extinct due to a lack of ice, the prey population of fish would increase, who would then eat up all their food supply of smaller fishes or vegetation, and then they themselves would starve. This trickles down to coastal communities, where there are animals that depend on marine animals for the majority of their diet, and then they would starve. Eventually, our food supply would get corrupted. Other issues are more prevalent, like extreme weather events. This includes hurricanes and floods. This hurts coastal communities and their economies, which we know experiencing the pandemic is detrimental. This leads to lives lost, jobs lost, and more money having to be spent to help these areas. Fortunately, though, not all hope is lost. The Arctic is facing the most rapid change, but not to an immediately pressing level. The situation is a sign of impending climate change that will soon affect the rest of the planet if we don't take action. With reducing carbon emissions from electricity, developed countries are able to use less fossil fuels than developing countries, especially South Africa, which depends on them. The USA is already taking reduction opportunities. Solar panels are a very popular option, and more houses are switching to solar energy, using the sun for power for electricity. Across the Midwest, wind turbines can be seen rotating in the wind. These utilize mechanical energy from wind and convert it into electrical energy. Hydropower is the same way, which uses mechanical energy from water converted into electrical energy. To personally make an impact on the planet, you don't have to reduce your water intake, but taking shorter showers can help. Maybe take your concerts elsewhere. Taking shorter showers is an example of reduced energy efficiency, which is using less electricity for the same task. You can turn off the lights when you leave a room, or turn off the water when you brush your teeth. These may seem like small acts in a huge world, but if everyone did this, it would make a major impact. Fossil fuels have been so helpful in bringing light to this world, literally. On the flip side though, they cause unnatural natural disasters and hurt Arctic ecosystems, the effects which eventually go full circle and hurt us here and now. We in developed countries who are able, if we save a little energy here and there, we can reverse the curse of climate change if we only stay informed and open our eyes to the world's problems instead of only looking at our own. Thank you.